Thank you, Joe, for making the time to come to be on. It's just a second
Thank
time
you.
to be on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let's start at the beginning. Love to discuss a little bit more about Alibaba and its global journey. So Alibaba, we all know, was started in an apartment in Hangzhou with a vision to connect entrepreneurs around the world. Over the years, you've had built trust across very different cultures. Looking back, what's the one decision or the moment that helped unlock true partnerships? And what would you say to founders today who are trying to cross borders with their ideas?
Well, trust is built up over time. It's very difficult to establish trust overnight. And so it's all about people working together to achieve a goal. And I think it's easier if you have a common goal that you're aiming for. Then you can work on the details of establishing that trust. And at Alibaba, from day one, we had a mission. The mission is to make it easy to do business anywhere because we wanted to help the small businesses to use the internet platform to reach globally, buyers globally, and that's something that stayed true to us even today. So our mission 26 years ago it's the same mission today. Speaking of entrepreneurs that want to build trust globally, right, reaching across borders, going overseas, I think it's very important for people that want to set up business overseas to go there and spend time. You actually take 2 months and live in a place where you want to set up business and get to know the people, get to know the culture. That's how you get respect, and from respect, you gain people's trust. And then, at Alibaba, we say, because of trust, everything becomes easy. I think that is such an important concept. If people don't trust each other, it's very difficult to actually achieve something together because you're always second guessing. You're always wondering if people have ulterior motives. So I'm glad you mentioned trust right off the bat. I think it's a really important concept.
Right. Yeah, so I think this, of course, wanted to address an elephant in the room because these months that we are always talking about, like the trade tensions and all that, like how do companies, when they want to go global and being affected by all these trade tensions, like what are your thoughts on how companies can adjust to all these global issues?
Well, I just think that what's happened in the last few months with these trade tensions and tariffs and governments acting in a way that's very unpredictable is we're in a new paradigm. It's companies are still trying to learn how to cope. It used to be that companies have their chief executives, part of their job is to communicate with government, with regulators, to achieve understanding of what they do, and they try to communicate that they're trying to bring good things to society, make the politicians comfortable, and make the regulators comfortable. But in today's world, it seems like there's some irrational behavior even in the context of a tariff war. So everybody in our position, managing businesses, have to cope with it. But I still stick to the basic idea that communication and achieving understanding is the most important thing. If you hear about some kind of regulation that's going to be against your company, if you just sit there, that's not going to do anything for you. I think it's important for company management to proactively reach out to people that make policy, that people make regulation, to try to explain what they do. I think one thing is always true, which is, doesn't matter whether it's shareholders, your investors, or whether it's policymakers and regulators, nobody likes to be surprised. Don't surprise people with, your company's actions or what projects or what you do. So always pre-communicate because that'll achieve better understanding.
Right. So I think when I mentioned this, because Beyond has been trying to push for a mission that helping Asian companies to go overseas market, or even Chinese companies can go to markets that may like Japan or Korea. So we created something we call the Be Global Network this year. It's something that we wanted to try to bring in stakeholders together and help entrepreneurs to go global. So
it's very contrarian because now globalists is not a popular thing.
Exactly.
Right?
So we actually have some setbacks, which leads to my next question about setbacks. I think, like you've seen Alibaba being known as a very global company, but I remember like a month ago when you were at Alibaba and you talked about how Alibaba should go more global, like in terms of business. What are the most important lessons that you've learned about scaling internationally, and not just from success, but also from setbacks? How might those lessons apply to startups navigating today's global market, as we just mentioned?
Yeah, I would say Alibaba is not perfect when it comes to internationalizing our business. We've had some success in some countries. We've also had spectacular failures in other countries. I'll get into that a little bit. But I think the image of Alibaba being a sort of a global company stems from the fact that Alibaba is based in China. China today is well recognized globally, especially in technology. People do look to China when it comes to AI, consumer internet, cloud computing, and things like that. China is definitely a weighty player in the global market. And Alibaba being in the Chinese market, as something like 80+% of our revenues are still coming from China, we do get recognized globally because China is a big country and a very important country in the whole sort of global technology race. When it comes to, when you ask about successes and failures, I think the one principle is being able to really understand the local culture and localize your management team when you operate. Let's say I'll give you an example. In our case, we're very proud of our cloud business. We have great technology, great products. But when it comes to sales and marketing in a local market, we may not be the best. You definitely have to hire a local team to execute the sales and marketing piece of your cloud business. Otherwise, you're never going to get any customers. That's an example. We have an example. We own the largest e-commerce platform in Turkey. But it's a acquired business where we retain the entire management team. We didn't try to replace the management team. We retained the people. We did a makeover of their technology platform, but it is the local team that's executing the business. And we think that combination, sort of China technology, local people, that's a very good combination for expanding overseas. Now, I have to say, Chinese companies growing overseas, there is a kind of an inherent obstacle in that most people around the world don't speak Chinese, whereas English is spoken everywhere. So it's inherently easier for an American company to grow to, their office in Germany and Italy will have Germans and Italians who can speak English with headquarters. Our offices in Germany and Italy probably won't be able to have, locals that could speak Chinese. And that barrier actually is is something that we need to overcome. And hopefully with AI, with translation tools and things like that, it will make things easier.
Yeah. So talking about technologies, we were talking about AI and robotics companies. I asked if I can ask you this question. So, because at Beyond this year, we do see a lot of AI companies and robotics companies like humanoids and different like robotic arms doing coffee. Like, what are your thoughts or what are your takes on on humanoid? Do you have any what do you think it's going to happen in the next 5 years or 10 years?
There's several aspects to this question. First, on robotics. In today's world, when you inject the AI element into robots, robots are just going to become smarter and can think, and robots can move in a way that could be driven by sort of reasoning and thinking. I think that's very exciting. It's not just a pre-programmed automation in the factory, right? So that's robotics with, when you marry robotics with AI, we think of very exciting things. Things like robots can make coffee for you, or they can come to your home and vacuum your floor. When I walk into the exhibition hall today, there are robots playing instruments. I think so. That's all great. There's a separate question on the utility of humanoid robots. I think most of the smart robots in the world, they don't need to look like human beings, okay? I'll give you an example. If you want to have a robot come and clean your carpet, come home and clean your kitchen or living room, do you really want someone that looks like a human being? I'll get scared, right? I just want to have something that looks like a vacuum cleaner, but that can move intelligently around the room, right? Yeah. And so I think most of the world, most of the use cases in the world is very applicable when it comes to robots or smart robots. But when it comes to humanoids, think about the scenarios where you actually want to have something that looks and feels and just like a human being. That's actually a little bit scary. What are those scenarios? I can't think of very many, because in all those scenarios, I would actually prefer to have a real human being interacting with me rather than a robot. Right. I'll get myself into trouble if I can try to get into those scenarios.
Well, yeah, I think that's a very good point, because when we talk about robots, we always look at the movies that we've seen when we were young, right? So they all look like human.
Well, they look like they sort of look like humans, but they're obviously not human beings, right? Yeah. But now, are we trying to move towards machines looking exactly like human beings? I think that's actually, technology-wise, there's still a lot of there's a lot of things to overcome. Yeah. We've now done very well with AI, with large language models, with AI being able to understand knowledge and now being able to reason. But spatial intelligence is where there still needs to be more advances in order for the robotics industry to move forward. I think understanding space, that's an area where intelligence is not quite there like human beings.
Okay. All right, so moving from tech to sports, because that's your passion as well.
Right.
You've been deeply involved in both sectors. So two very different worlds. So I assume it's both fueled by passion and community. So from Brooklyn Nets to, I think you recently purchased San Diego Seals as well for the...
Not recent, but that was
a
few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you keep keeping the local spirit while building a global fan base? And was there ever a fan moment, like maybe surprising or funny, that made you realize that just how powerful sports culture could be?
Yeah, so this dichotomy between local sports fan base versus global fan base, I think the way to understand it is this. If you define sports narrowly as competition, then there's a lot of, you could say that a lot of the excitement about sports competition is local because you want to support a team that represents your city, or in the Olympics, a team that represents your country. It's very place affinity based, right? Why is that? It's because when you win, you want to feel like the team that just won represents you. That's part of you. And that's usually location based, okay? But if you take sports broadly defined as entertainment, then you can expand the fan base broadly, globally. What we try to do with the Brooklyn Nets is we try to launch Brooklyn as a global brand. The concept of Brooklyn is not just basketball. It's a cultural concept. It's fashion, it's music, it's the local culture of Brooklyn that we think can extend, that could play well globally. So if it's narrowly about sports, you have to focus on the local fan base. But if you think of it as entertainment, then you can build a local brand, a global brand.
So we were at the NBA booth, so just a little bit marketing because Brooklyn Nets is coming to Macau and play the NBA game.
Yes, in October.
Yes.
I think the date is
October.
Is it October 9th or 10th?
Yeah.
10th. We're playing two games
yeah.
in Macau. The Brooklyn Nets
I think
and another NBA team. You know, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So,
yeah, so make sure you guys should come to Macau again and watch the game. Yeah, and I think sports and digital platforms are almost inseparable. So how do you see platforms, whether it's e-commerce or sports media, helping scale cross-cultural conversations? Any recent innovations from your ventures that you feel really shifted the game?
yeah, so I think when you talk about sports platforms, the traditional platform is broadcast TV. You know, you broadcast a game, a full game. It's a basketball game, it's about 2 hours. But today, the platform is moving towards streaming. But if you think about platforms that display sports broadly, it's social media. Young people today, they don't watch the full game anymore. They watch highlights. And there are a lot of people that are betting on games, and they don't really watch the actual game itself. They're looking at the stats. Maybe they're looking at the last 2 minutes of the game. So there's a lot of different digital platforms where you can engage with sports that is not about just watching a game. So I think that's what's happening to the world. And your question is?
Any recent innovations from your ventures? Do you think it's a very good examples that you can share?
Well, the one innovation I can think of is not a technology innovation. It's a creative innovation. So we have a women's basketball team called the New York Liberty. We won the championship, the WNBA championship last year. Along with the Liberty, we invented this mascot. The reason we had to invent a mascot, even though the team itself is 28 years old, the team was under a separate ownership and we had a different mascot. So when we took over, we changed the mascot from some fuzzy bear thing to an elephant. And this elephant, her name is Ellie. She represents the New York Liberty, and she represents now our fan base. And she is now a total fan favorite, because if you see Ellie perform on the during halftime on the court, you'd be amazed how well she moves. And she is sassy, she's got moves, she can dance. So this has now become an innovation. because it's no longer a mascot. Let's think about Ellie. What are the other extensions of Ellie? Can we make a movie out of Ellie? Can Ellie write children's books? Can Ellie attend other TV shows to, market our team? So the extension of Ellie is definitely a creative innovation that we're very proud of. Yeah. And whether it's on a digital platform or other platforms, certainly Ellie lives in social media and gets get a lot of engagement with our fans.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get a little bit more personal. I think every leader faces setbacks. So the best turn them into opportunities. So I think you once mentioned that optimism can turn a crisis into opportunity. Can you share a moment where something looked like a major setback in business, or even on a sports side, turned into a game-changing opportunity? And what changed in your mindset or leadership as a result?
Before I give you an example of a setback and how we use the setback to kind of, recover, I just want to say there's a lot of similarity between sports and business in that in sports, you definitely will suffer losses. You're never going to have, it's very rare that you have an undefeated season, and so what you learn in sports is that you fall down and you climb back. How do you recover from losses, devastating losses, right? Is really, really the muscle that you build up for a sports team, being able to recover from these huge setbacks. So in business, it's the same thing. At Alibaba, we have a saying that doesn't matter what happens, as long as we survive for one more day, we can always recover and try to come back. So speaking of setbacks, you look at Alibaba for the last 5 years, there were a ton of setbacks. It's a confluence of regulatory scrutiny, crackdowns, to competition, very fierce competition. E-commerce is the fiercest competitive space in China. And the geopolitics of what was going on. And then we run into COVID, where people kind of stopped doing things. And all of these things all sort of came together at the same time, right around 2020, 2021. And so I think we have learned during this phase to be resilient and to always think about living another day, living an extra day so we have the opportunity to fight back. And certainly we gave ourselves the opportunity to recover, and we made some changes to the organization. And now I think we're on a very good path looking forward as we focus on a couple of core businesses. One is e-commerce, right? We say we're in the e-commerce business. And the other one is cloud computing. And then we also said that we want to make sure that AI is everywhere in every aspect of our business, both customer-facing but also for internal as well.
Right. So I think a lot of young people here actually looked up to you. And what's one simple but lasting thing you would like to tell them? And looking ahead, what shift in mindset do you think today's leaders need to shape a more hopeful future?
So I was talking to my daughter. My daughter is 3 years out of university. She's 25 years old. And she was in the middle of changing jobs and was having a conversation with her. And she said, well, I don't want to quit right now before I take on another job. Because I was advising her to quit her her current job and then just spend 6 months to figure out what she wants to do. And she said, that's not very good for my resume. So I think my first advice, which I gave her the advice, was that don't worry about your resume. You're still young. It doesn't matter what it looks like. The important thing is you learn to acquire real knowledge and real skill sets in whatever you do. And I think young people tend to get into this sort of resume building mode, and they forget why they work. Young people today should be working because they want to acquire more skills and knowledge. That's why they work. So that's advice number one. Don't worry about your resume. Don't worry too much about building a certain career path, because you need to be opportunistic. When opportunities come along, it will never be part of the charter path that you have laid out for yourself. And you need to be able to see those opportunities and seize these opportunities. So that's number one. Number two, who you have as a boss is more important than your job description. Some people say, oh, you know, I'm stuck in this role, I have to do this thing. That doesn't matter what you do. You should focus on who your boss is. Can you get along with them? Are they teaching you something? Try to find the mentor at work that could actually teach you stuff, that could give you wisdom. You know. So that's my advice to young people. And your second question is about the shift in mindset?
Yeah, to shape a more hopeful future.
Well, look, I think by definition, young people should be hopeful than older people, because older people have we have already lived most of our lives, and young people have so much to look forward to in the future. And you just need to have that mindset. Don't complain. You know, I don't like complainers in any organization, in the company. If people, I think that you know, you talk about mindset. I think that's really, really important. If you're a young person today, and you walk into a room, ask yourself, are you energizing everybody else, or are you the downer that drags everybody else down? Nobody likes the downer. Nobody likes to hire people or work with people that makes everybody else really sad and really upset. But everybody will support someone who can uplift other people. That's the difference between a good teammate and a bad teammate.
Yeah, so I think it comes to my last question that I just thought of. So our slogan this year is actually empowering Asia, bridging the world. And I think what you have been doing, it's right on the line of our slogan. What do you think are the opportunities in Asia, and people from Asia, like what should they chase for, or what should they aim for in this 5 to 10 years? Because I think Beyond is a platform that we want the world to see what Asia is and what Asia is capable of. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the opportunities in Asia.
Well, if you look at the sort of the last 40 years of history, Asia has benefited a lot from being part of the integrated world, from the global economy, especially manufacturing-driven economies like China, Vietnam, Southeast Asia countries. People have benefited from free trade, right? It was until recently some governments try to tear down this bridge that we have built between Asia and the rest of the world, right? So we definitely are living in a new paradigm. So I think my thinking, you know, the immediate thing that came to my mind is let's look at inter-Asia activity. I think if you look at China's trade with the rest of Southeast Asia, it's already as big as its trade with the United States. I think there's actually a lot of inter-Asia business activity engagement that can happen among the East Asian countries, between East Asia and Southeast Asia, and eventually South Asia as well, because we see huge population, obviously, in India, Pakistan. Those are developing worlds. I can think of that right now as people try to tear down the bridge between the West and Asia. The other thing is, I believe that Europe is still an incredible opportunity for Asian companies. I believe that Europeans have a very different cultural mindset when it comes to dealing in Asia. I think, Americans tend to be sort of more black and white, whether if it's not good, then it's bad. I think Europeans understand nuances better. The culture is older. There are some cultural similarities between European culture and Asian cultures. And I think that's another area where Asian companies should explore.
Right. So I think, because the timer is up, and I think we really appreciate all the time and sharing from Joe. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey, your wisdom, and your humor with us today. So you remind us that resilience and vision and human connections are truly what will shape the future. So thank you so much for your time.
I guarantee you it's not a robot sitting in the seat. It's humans.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.